Welcome back to Ron's Radio Corner. And what we have in front of us here is an AITC Solid State 8 transistor radio. To the best of my ability, it looks like this radio comes from 1964, 1965, somewhere in that range. The story behind the radio is pretty simple. My cousin had reached out to me a few weeks back. He was going through some stuff, doing a little house cleaning, and said he had found a radio that he thought I'd be interested in. I went over and he showed me the GE analog AM/FM clock radio, which I put up on the channel maybe a few weeks back. And as we were looking at that, he also said he had found this radio. And what he pointed out to me was he thought this was a radio that was designed for TV broadcasts. He looked at the dial knob here, and he saw, 6 and 7 and 10, and he thought this was, referring to TV channels. And I said, no, this is an AM radio, and what we're looking at here is 540 AM. This is representing the 600 section of the AM dial, and 700, 1000, 1600. Now, one problem is that's it. So, a tiny little turn of this knob is, sending you from 600 to 700. Makes it really tough to fine tune the channels that might be within that range. And if you think going from 6 to 700 is bad, what about when you're going from 700 to 1000? I know in my area there's a few channels in the 700 range, in the 800 range, in the 900 range. That's going to be a challenge to pull those in, to really try to fine tune them. And then you go from 1000 to 1600. When I did a recent video where I was looking at AM reception on the ATS-20. Here is my cheat sheet here of the different channels that I was pulling in, and you can see, there was several in the 600s, a few in the 700s, 800s, 900s, a few in the thousands, 1100s, 1200s, right? that would be a real challenge to tune in on this dial. So he handed me this radio, and he was going to throw it away because this radio uses a 9-volt battery, and the connector for the 9-volt was broken. And what was sort of amazing is that someone, one of his parents, I suppose, took this radio, and instead of, at that point, throwing it in the trash, stored it away. So I said, I'll take that radio, and I'll see what I can do with it. And what I did with it is definitely not pretty, and it's not particularly elegant, and I don't know how much luck I'm going to have getting this little case off while I'm reaching over the camera. So hold on a second, let me do a little magic. Pull this off. It's a clear case, although I think from the years it's now more of a yellow. And in person, the white plastic on this is definitely showing its age. There's some yellowing there, and I think you can pick that up on the camera. When I'm looking at it like this on the camera, I think it actually looks better in the camera than it does in person. It's not horrible, but it's certainly not pristine. And this is after I've spent a little bit of time cleaning the case. And I know there's things you can do to sort of renew plastics. I don't know if I'm going to go through the trouble of taking the guts out of this so that I can maybe soak the plastic in some sort of peroxide solution. So again, this is not an elegant repair, but what I did here is I picked up a 9-volt connector off of Amazon. I took the old one off the radio, and then I using some wire strippers, stripped the wire back, stripped the wires on the new connector, just sort of twisted them together, taped it together. Yes, anybody who really does electronics, you're probably appalled. I don't solder. If I did, that would certainly have been the better way to go. But I also wanted to see if it worked. So I picked up the 9-volt battery, took the two ends from the radio's wiring, touched it to the battery. It fired up, and then, like I said, I stripped the wires back on the new connector, twisted it together, gave it a little electrical tape, and sure enough, it works. And you can see, and this is, this, who knows how long that wad of paper's been there for, but apparently the battery must have rattled a little bit, so they stuffed a little piece of paper in there to keep the battery snug. So let me throw this back on. And I'm going to do a little bit of magic here again. There we go, back in its case. And I probably should have done some more magic and actually tuned it into something. But simple operation. Volume knob on this side, tuning knob on this side. There we go. Turn it on. Now, when I gave this an initial go through, I pulled in like 4 channels, which isn't really impressive. What I'm going to try to do here, I'm going to do a little more magic. Okay, so suddenly the radio has jumped from one direction, it's facing sideways. And that's because it's just awfully tough on this small radio to tune it while reaching around. But one of the things I noticed is I got about 4 channels, but here's a situation where that AM loop really makes a difference. And it would probably be fun to do a whole video where I took the time to tune in a station, pull the antenna away, and show you. But I don't know if we'll take that much time today. So it's interesting because here's I've joked a few times that my luck with the antenna doesn't seem to be stellar. But here's a situation where the radio really seemed to respond to that antenna.
Accept money from something and then claim it doesn't exist. Because that was... They got divorced, she would have gotten that, and that's it. I could cover both. So, I could not present this case. These facts are just egregious, right? Again, folks, whether this couple is fighting or not fighting, that isn't the issue. Let's talk about what the tips are we can learn from this, right? So, obviously it was a second marriage. So kudos for this person stepping up to the plate and saying, look, I want to...
So, put that over there. Get that slightly out of camera range. Let's bring this over and let me turn it off. So, this is really a basic radio. I remember, and I've talked about my first radio in another video, where I think the first radio that I can recall having was some Mickey Mouse AM radio. But I remember, and it probably wasn't my radio, it's probably just a radio that was in the house, a black radio, very, very much like this one, with the little square window. And I want to think it was an RCA. But I was small, so I could be wrong. Very, very much like this radio. This is sort of the classic transistor radio from the 60s. And it's funny because, I just did a video on this guy, which is trying to look like a radio from the 60s. I'm doing a pretty good job. It's modeled after the real-tone Comet. But what a big difference in design. You know, at a glance, you would almost think this was something from the 70s with the wood grain and, you know, the stainless steel, the very square design. Just kind of gives you an idea of, you know, where, I guess, how design evolved when it came to things like radios. But, you know, simple AM radio. Of course, these seem to be, it seems like everybody had a radio like this. Radio is important, and I have talked in other videos how, you know, it makes sense for everybody to have some sort of little emergency radio sitting in a drawer. This is one of those radios. Everybody had one of these things in the drawer, if you know, or something very, very similar to it. What will I do with it? Unfortunately, AM doesn't really have a lot of programming, which we've talked about, and this seems to be relatively deaf, except for the really, really local, strong signals. So unless I bring this AM antenna. So what will I do with it? Well, I'll have some fun with it. There is some AM programming that I do occasionally listen to. I have my AM transmitter, which will give me an opportunity to use it. I'm rather, you know, amused or pleased, or maybe a little bit of both, of how well this radio is responding to the AM loop antenna. So it might be fun to do a video in the future where I do a little bit of a band scan, figure out what I can tune in with the antenna and what I can't. So we'll have some fun with it. I think the thing that, at least for now, I think the thing that I'm most excited about is that it works. Right? It's pretty simple, but I don't know why, when that 9-volt connector ripped or tore, why the radio didn't get thrown away. And like I said, it was headed for the trash can. My cousin, you know, knew the 9-volt connector was broken. He thought it was interesting because he thought it was a TV, a radio for TV stations, not for AM. And he just kind of kept it out of the trash can long enough to show it to me. I will be the first to tell you that my repair is a bit half-assed. I understand that, but that half-assed repair allows this little guy to live a little while longer and stay out of the trash can. So we'll find some reasons to use this, and like I said, you may see a video down the line where I spent a little time doing AM band scan with this guy with the AM loop antenna on the side. So it's the AITC Solid State 8. Fun little radio. Thanks for watching.